everybody. If you'd like to take your seats, I'd like to welcome you to the Digital R&D Fund in the Arts Forum. My name is Paul Gerhardt, and I'm here to look after the events and make sure they run smoothly for you today. I guess my role is something in between Breakfast TV and John Humphreys on Radio 4. I'm going to be the nice guy, and I'm going to ask a few questions as we go along as well. Can I give you a few housekeeping points? There will be opportunities for discussion at some key points in the programme, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, and we want to maximise the experiences and views that you've brought along today. We are filming the event, and we are recording it. Please try and keep your phones preferably turned off so they don't interfere either with the mics or the filming. Please also look at your packs carefully and make sure you know how to evacuate the building in the event of any emergency. And the other thing to say is that we are following this whole event and participating through Twitter on AHRC Digital, so please take an opportunity to use that. I think we've got a very exciting programme today. We've got lots of opportunities to hear about both the pilot projects and current projects. But we're going to kick off by hearing from some of the organisations who've helped to make this happen. So we have with us Geoff Mulgan, who's the Chief Executive of Nesta, Alan Davey, the Chief Executive of Arts Council England, Rick Rylance, the Chief Executive of the Arts and Humanities Research Council. So without more ado, can I ask Geoff to kick us off? Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Paul, and thanks in the spirit of the topic for starting proceedings ahead of time. And much of what we're going to be talking about is, in a way, about getting ahead of change. I'm going to be very brief, not least because I am one of a succession of white male speakers, and we want most of the proceedings today to be really workshopping, discussion about the content, what we're talking about. For Nesta, this is a really exciting initiative, and we're really proud to be working with Arts Council and AHRC on making this work. It brings together our interests in the arts, in technology, and in innovation in a way which I think is quite novel, not just for the UK, but perhaps even for the world. What lies behind this, in a way, is probably quite obvious to all of you. In your daily lives, you may already be tweeting on what's happening here, on social media, arranging your evening's entertainment, and in some ways, digital technologies are just the sea we swim in so much of life today. But I think for the last 2 or 3 decades, many people in the arts have seen them as a threat. That the more life goes online, the more that will suck attention, energy, money away from things like theatres, concerts, galleries, and so on. The actual experience has, I think, been a bit of a surprise, and an interesting surprise, that during the period when the internet has transformed so much of life, in fact, the numbers going to live sports, live music, live theatre have gone up, not down. But there have been losers as well as winners along the way, and I think the winners have usually been the ones who've been able to combine really good offline work, provision, creativity with online elements. And what this fund is about is trying to see how digital technologies can be used to find new audiences, new revenues, new ways of thinking about art forms to strengthen arts organisations rather than to be a threat. The problem is that's easy to say, but quite difficult to do. And the only way to find out what will really work for your organisations is through experiment, trial, and sometimes error to discover what works. Interestingly, the way a company like Google works, and we're hearing from Google a bit later, or Amazon, is now to experiment with almost everything they do in the digital economy, and to accept that many experiments will fail, but on the way to much bigger successes. And what we're trying to do with this fund is to provide the space to allow for boldness and ambition, but also rigor and experiment, and to reduce, I hope, some of the fear, the risk involved in innovation, particularly for organizations facing such acute pressures on cash, pressures which are likely to get harder, not easier. And we're wanting to create a space in a way to take risks away from the tendency of a very target-driven culture, which makes it harder to try new things and even harder to admit when they're difficult, to admit when things don't work. And a critical aspect of this fund is, I hope, encouraging a culture of honesty about failures as well as successes, about the difficulties as well as the things which work well. And I do hope you will read this report in detail, which Paul did the introduction to, which is a really interesting description of the pilot projects run over the last year or two in a whole range of fields, from new ways of ticketing and engaging audiences to completely rethinking art forms. And it's the detail which is interesting, the detail which I hope you will find useful. For us, it's really important, this is the final point, to extend the notion of R&D, research and development, into the arts. Most public money for R&D in this country goes to missiles and medicine, defense and health. And it's not been part of our culture to think that research and development and experiment is relevant to the arts. And yet, arguably, there's far more value to be created for our society and our economy in this field than maybe in the next generation of drones. But I won't say any more about drones. The one thing I think we can really learn, though, from how R&D is done in other fields is this willingness to try things. There's a wonderful saying which I think is relevant to all of us here today, that every success looks like a failure in the middle. That on the road to any really dramatic breakthrough in creativity or arts or business models or technology involves a bumpy road. And I hope we can make it easier, perhaps to reduce the numbers of failures, but above all to raise the ambition to experiment, to use the extraordinary array of technologies most of you already have in your pockets here or on your table, in order to increase ambition about what is possible in the arts. And I hope in the next year, 2, 3 years' time, to translate that into new revenues, new energy, new possibilities for your organizations. Thanks very much, and I think I'll pass over to Alan.
Thanks for that, and good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to apologise for the fact I'm not going to be able to stay all day, which I was rather looking forward to, because there's a lot to hear and learn about some of the projects today. And I want to underline what Geoff was saying about learning what works and learning what doesn't work and being honest. And I think today's a real opportunity to have a free and frank exchange of what works and what doesn't work, bringing together digital technology and the arts. Now, this is something that means a lot to me. At the Arts Council, our mission statement is great art for everyone. Great art will, by its very definition, always be exploring, be pushing boundaries. Great artists will always want to try new things, and will always want to use technology to try things that weren't imagined before, and also to connect in new and different ways with audiences. And if we look at the way technology has changed our lives, being able to carry our music collection around in our pockets and then downloading an app that tells us where those artists that are on our devices are playing in the next month or so, it's made my life very, very complicated indeed now. There's so much possibility for connecting what we've traditionally done in the arts with people in new ways using digital technology. And that's why this R&D fund is so important. And also it's why having partnerships for us at the Arts Council is so important. One of the things we realised when we were kind of formulating our creative media policy and our wider digital policies was that we can't do it all ourselves. So I'm really glad to be here with Nesta and the AHRC as joint funders of this fund. I think that's really important. I think it's really important for us at the Arts Council to say that we can't do it alone. You know, lots of organizations in the past have tried to do things themselves and have ended up behaving in misguided ways. This isn't the case here. Because as we go forward in looking at digital technology and what it can offer us, we are going to need partners. Very important partnership with the BBC that we've established in the last year, bringing about the space pilot, which I think has begun to show some of the possibilities for new ways of interacting with audiences and using technology in new ways for the traditional arts organisations or artists to explore things. And as we develop Space 2, I hope we'll be able to explore much more what those possibilities are. Because one of the things that we found when we were talking to arts organisations about the challenge or the opportunity, or in some cases, some people were seeing it as the threat of digital technology, was people didn't realise what was possible. People hadn't given themselves the space to think differently about things to do which weren't possible to do, about these new ways of connection and interaction. And I hope that as you're talking today about what's happened in some of the projects, these ideas of possibility will emerge. I just thinking about one of the most valuable things about our partnership with the BBC has been those conversations about the possible. With BBC people who are used to linear broadcasting, if you like, coming together with arts organisations and having conversations that brought about possibilities that we haven't yet realised in many cases, that are really, really exciting in terms of audience connection, allowing the audience to interact, allowing people to experience culture in new and different ways, and ways that we haven't yet properly imagined. So, as I said, there's lots of people speaking now, so I think I'll leave it there and introduce my partner in this, Rylance, Chief Executive of the Arts and Humanities Research Council.
Thank you, partner. I was born in and raised in Manchester, and so one of the great pleasures of being here today is seeing inside this building for the first time in my life, and it really is extraordinary. These pictures around the walls are fabulous. I think there are two things to celebrate today. Both begin with C. The first is change, and this is undoubtedly technology-driven, but it also equally has a cultural and social dimension in the ways that both Geoff and Alan have described so eloquently. The other thing I think we ought to celebrate is collaboration. Collaboration not just between the various partner bodies who've set this up, but also between different sorts of organisations who are going to enable this work to go forward. So the connection between research, the connection between Nesta and the Arts Council is a splendid good which is emerging from this, and one which I hope will bring us profit and further enterprises in the future. So that's terrific. I think when you come to the research bit of it, if you think 5-10 years ahead and the ways that research is changing, I think the following sorts of things will be true. Increasingly, research will not be produced in specialist and to some degree rather remote outfits, largely called universities. It will be produced between organisations and not just within them. And those organisations will not be just this university and that. It will also be this kind of organisation, the sorts of organisations you all represent, and all the other areas of the knowledge economy, which is increasingly important for our endeavours. And I think what can be said about cross-institutional, cross-organisational collaboration in research is also true internationally, and it is true too in terms of disciplines, that increasingly work will be cross and not single disciplinary, and that is the way to tackle complex but exciting problems in the modern world. So I'm delighted that research has got so involved in this. I do look forward to the exciting results from the project. The pilot has already produced that, but I think the next round will be even better. And I look forward to the research that we can help with on that, which will enable reflection on practice, bringing together the best points and also distributing it across various sorts of networks. So a very warm welcome to you today and good luck with the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rick. And I do endorse his remarks about the research, by the way, because I'm probably one of the few people who've read all of the research reports for the pilot R&D projects, but they are immensely worthwhile. Can I finally introduce Sir Richard Lee, Leader of the Council, Manchester City Council, to finish our introductions this morning. Sir Richard.
Thanks very much and good morning, everybody. Welcome to Manchester Town Hall, a city that grew and a city that's renewed itself by doing things differently. I was interested in Rick's reference to being from Manchester, but never having been in this building before, and his reference to the 4 Maddox Brown murals that surround the building. We've recently digitalised the building, and through digitalising the building, that means that we have now the potential for anybody anywhere in the world to be able to see 3D images, and indeed even to go into 3D images of the building, although I have to say that's not the reason we did it. The big aid it gives to us is the ability to be able to maintain the building and, when necessary, to restore the building. A very obvious connection between the world of the digital world and the world of art. Manchester, as you all know, is a centre for arts. It's a centre for the creation, the performance, the display, but also training in the arts. And I'm not going to talk about the arts without mentioning our showcase that comes a little bit later in the year, the Manchester International Festival, the 4th festival. And the full programme will be being announced later this month, which is probably a good job, really, because I think all the bits that have been announced early have sold out already. So, again, the relation of the digital world for arts, when the next set of tickets to be released, you better be ready with your mouse instantly if you're going to have a chance for that. We are and do have a number of, I think, interesting developments in this field. Media Cities and BBC clearly are a flagship for the Manchester City region. That's something that gets almost equal attention is the Sharp project, something that brings together digital content providers with the digital world and is at the cutting edge of much of what is happening. More traditional fields, we've got Contact Theatre who are using digital means to develop and engage with audiences. Similarly, they use use of telepresence, where international performers can come together virtually. Band on the Wall, Manchester Craft and Design Centre are recording and sharing their work beyond the theatre, gallery and workshop. The Manchester Museum and Whitworth Art Gallery using digital techniques to be able to reveal collections in exciting ways that will be impossible through a display case. And again, Whitworth Art Gallery, along with Corner House, allowing public access to creative content for them to become the architects of the city cultural offer. We are a city that's still investing in the arts, and I'm not going to criticise those local authority areas that are pulling back, because I understand the enormous strain that local authority budgets are under at the moment. But it is a priority for us to continue to invest in the arts, largely for the economic benefits we believe it will bring. 2 practical examples of that. If you come in around about 12 months' time, in the central library, a couple of hundred yards from here, in the basement of there will be something called Archive Plus, bringing together a number of archives with support from the Arts Council, but also be able to make archives available, accessible in a way that they very rarely are. The other investment, and it goes alongside that, is a new home for the Corner House, putting it together with the Library Theatre. And again, a key element of that new Corner House, new Library Theatre, will be digital enhancement to be able to get the most out of the creativity that will be within that building. We've had a digital arts festival in Manchester for 15 years now, Future Everything, very well regarded internationally, and something that we believe has the capacity to grow to be an internationally significant digital arts festival for the UK. Perhaps the last thing I want to mention is in the new world is open data. Again, as a City Council, we are aiming to make as much of our data available in an open way as possible. We're encouraging other public sector partners to do the same. And very recently, we held our first hackathon, 70 different teams coming together to use that open data and see what they could make of it. Done in a competitive environment, and there was a winner, but yet a new way that we put creative arts and the digital together. I think it is something that is opening new doors. It is something that certainly this city is already part of and wants to continue to be an active part in. And I think for that reason, what is being launched today, the work that is being undertaken between Nesta and the Arts Council to encourage developments in this area is something very valuable indeed. So again, welcome to Manchester. Have a good day. The only thing I will say is that the digitalised version of the town hall is a lot easier to heat than the real version. Thank you very much.